Captain Marcus Chun stood on the bridge of the human colony ship New Horizon, watching the morning sun rise over Kepler 442b's purple mountains. The coffee in his hands had gone cold hours ago, but he barely noticed. Today marked exactly 15 years since the day that changed everything. The memories came flooding back like they always did on this date. The burning wreckage of an unknown alien vessel scattered across the rocky terrain. The acrid smoke that made his eyes water even through his environmental suit. And buried beneath a twisted piece of hull plating, a sound that stopped his heart. The weak crying of something very young and very afraid. Marcus had been just 28 then, a junior survey officer on humanity's first deep space exploration mission. They weren't supposed to make contact with alien life. The protocols were clear: observe, document, report back to Earth. Don't interfere. Don't get involved. Don't risk humanity's safety for the unknown. But when he pulled away that debris and saw the small, trembling creature beneath, all those protocols might as well have been written in smoke. The being was no bigger than a human toddler, with iridescent blue-green skin and large, dark eyes that seemed to hold far too much intelligence for something so small. It was bleeding from several cuts, and one of its forearms hung at an odd angle. The creature had looked up at him with those impossible eyes and made a sound, not quite a purr, not quite a whistle, that somehow conveyed both terror and hope. In that moment, Marcus knew he couldn't walk away. He couldn't follow protocol. He couldn't leave this child to die alone among the wreckage of what was probably its family's ship. "Sir," Lieutenant Sarah Kim's voice pulled Marcus back to the present. "The morning patrol reports are in. All sectors clear." Marcus nodded, taking a sip of his cold coffee and grimacing. "Any word from the outer colonies?" "Nothing unusual. Trade ships running on schedule. The mining operation on Kepler 442c is ahead of quota." Sarah paused, studying her tablet. "There's one thing, sir. Long-range sensors picked up an unidentified vessel entering the system about 6 hours ago." Marcus felt his stomach tighten. After 15 years of peaceful expansion, humanity had encountered only 3 other intelligent species. The Valorians were traders who valued efficiency above all else. The Nexari were scientists who shared humanity's curiosity about the universe. The Keth were warriors who respected strength and honor. All 3 had become allies of sorts, though relationships remained cautious. "Configuration?" Marcus asked. "Unknown design. Not matching any ships in our databases. It's maintaining distance, but appears to be scanning our outer settlements." "Put it on screen." The main display flickered to life, showing a ship unlike anything Marcus had ever seen. It was sleek and organic-looking, with flowing curves that seemed to shift and change as he watched. The hull appeared to be made of some kind of crystalline material that caught the light in ways that hurt to look at directly. "It's beautiful," Sarah whispered. Marcus felt a chill run down his spine. He'd seen that kind of bioorganic technology before, 15 years ago, in the wreckage of a much smaller ship. "Have they responded to our hails?" "No, sir. Complete radio silence." "Keep trying. And prep the Defender for launch. I want Commander Rodriguez and her team ready for anything." As Sarah relayed his orders, Marcus stared at the alien ship and tried to push down the growing certainty in his gut. It couldn't be a coincidence. Not today. Not after 15 years of silence. The creature he'd rescued that day had been dying when he found it. Dr. Elizabeth Harper, the expedition's xenobiologist, had worked around the clock to save its life. The being's physiology was unlike anything they'd encountered. Silicon-based rather than carbon, with a nervous system that seemed to operate on quantum principles they barely understood. For 3 weeks, the creature had lingered between life and death in the medical bay. Marcus had spent every off-duty hour sitting beside its bed, talking to it in soft tones, even though he wasn't sure it could understand. He'd read to it from his collection of old Earth books, played music from his tablet, and told it stories about his childhood in the mountains of Colorado. Slowly, impossibly, the creature had begun to heal. More than that, it had begun to learn. Its species they discovered absorbed language and concepts at an incredible rate. Within a month, it was speaking basic English. Within 3 months, it was reading technical manuals and asking questions about human culture that made the expedition's philosophers scratch their heads. The being called itself HFY, though it explained that was merely a sound approximation of its true name. It told them its ship had been fleeing from something terrible when it crashed, but whenever they asked for details, HFY would become quiet and withdrawn. All they could get was that its people were gone, scattered, hiding, or dead. Marcus had become HFY's unofficial guardian during the remainder of the expedition. He taught the young alien about human customs, shared his meals with it, and even let it sleep in his quarters when nightmares about the crash became too much. In return, HFY had shared stories of its own people, tales of a civilization that had mastered the quantum realm and built cities that existed in multiple dimensions simultaneously. When the expedition was recalled to Earth after 18 months, the question of what to do with HFY had nearly torn the crew apart. Some argued they should bring it back for study. Others insisted they should leave it on one of the habitable worlds they'd surveyed to live free but alone. A few even suggested they should contact Earth Command and let the politicians decide. Marcus had spent sleepless nights pacing his quarters, knowing that whatever choice they made would determine the course of HFY's entire life. The young alien had grown to trust him completely, following him around the ship like a loyal pet, and looking to him for guidance on everything from human social customs to the mysteries of quantum mechanics. In the end, it was HFY who made the choice. On their last night before the journey home, the alien had climbed into Marcus's lap, something it did when feeling particularly vulnerable, and said in its melodic voice, "I want to go with you to your home place. I want to learn about your people and maybe find a way to help mine." But Earth Command had other ideas. When they reached Sol System, a military escort was waiting. HFY was classified as a potential security threat and whisked away to a research facility somewhere in the depths of the Pentagon's black budget programs. Marcus's protests fell on deaf ears. His requests for information were denied. His applications to visit were rejected. The last time he'd seen HFY, the young alien was being led away by armed guards, its dark eyes looking back at Marcus with an expression he'd never been able to forget: hurt, confusion, and something that might have been betrayal. "Sir," Sarah's voice broke through his memories again. "The alien ship is moving. It's heading directly for the colony." Marcus straightened in his command chair. "How long until intercept?" "At current speed, approximately 2 hours. Signal general quarters. I want all department heads in the briefing room in 10 minutes. Marcus stood and handed Sarah his empty coffee cup. "And Sarah, run a deep scan on that ship. I want to know everything: weapon signatures, power output, crew complement. Everything." As the bridge crew sprang into action around him, Marcus felt the weight of 15 years pressing down on his shoulders. He'd risen through the ranks since that first expedition, earning his command through a combination of skill, dedication, and the kind of hard-won experience that only came from facing the unknown and living to tell about it. But standing here now, watching an impossible ship approach their peaceful colony, he felt like that same uncertain young officer who'd once defied orders to save a dying alien child. The briefing room filled quickly with the New Horizons senior staff. Commander Angela Rodriguez, head of Colonial Security, brought holographic displays showing defensive positions. Dr. James Walsh, the colony's chief scientist, carried data tablets full of preliminary sensor readings. Chief Engineer Yuki Tanaka had schematics of the colony's power grid and shield generators. "Report," Marcus said without preamble. Dr. Walsh spoke first. "The ship's energy signature is unlike anything in our databases, but there are some fascinating similarities to theoretical quantum drive technologies. If I'm reading these scans correctly, that vessel doesn't just travel through space. It travels through dimensional layers we can't even detect." "Weapons?" Marcus asked. Commander Rodriguez pulled up a tactical display. "Hard to say. The entire ship seems to be some kind of engineered organism. What we might interpret as weapon ports could just as easily be sensory organs or communication arrays. She paused, frowning at her data. Sir, I have to ask, do you have any insight into this? Your body language suggests you might know something about this ship or its occupants. Marcus was quiet for a long moment, studying the faces around the table. These people had followed him through the challenges of establishing humanity's first permanent colony outside the solar system. They trusted his judgment through alien encounters, resource shortages, and the 100 small crises that came with building a new world. They deserve the truth. 15 years ago, I was part of the Deep Space Survey mission that first mapped this system, he began. During that expedition, we encountered the crash site of an alien vessel. There was a survivor, a child of a species we'd never seen before. The room fell silent except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. The child was dying when we found it. Our medical team managed to save its life, and during the months that followed, it lived among us. It learned our language, our customs. It became— Marcus paused, searching for the right words. It became like family to me. What happened to it? Dr. Walsh asked quietly. Earth Command classified it as a potential threat. The last time I saw it, it was being taken to a research facility for study. Marcus met each of their gazes in turn. That was 15 years ago. The child species had mastered quantum technologies that were centuries ahead of our own. If it survived, if it learned, if it found a way to return to its people, then that ship out there might be coming for you, Commander Rodriguez finished. Marcus nodded. It's possible, and I have no idea whether it's coming in friendship or for revenge. The next hour passed in a blur of preparations. Shield generators were brought to full power. Evacuation protocols were reviewed. The colony's small fleet of patrol ships took defensive positions around the settlement. But despite all their preparations, Marcus knew that if the approaching ship was hostile and possessed the quantum technologies HFY's people had mastered, their defenses would be meaningless. As the alien vessel drew closer, its true size became apparent. It was massive, easily 3 times the length of the New Horizon, and shaped like some impossible sea creature that had learned to swim through the void between stars. Patterns of light flowed across its crystalline hull, like bioluminescent displays in Earth's deep oceans. Sir, Lieutenant Kim called from the communication station. We're receiving a transmission. On screen, the main display flickered, and Marcus felt his breath catch in his throat. The face that appeared was unmistakably that of the child he'd rescued years ago, but transformed by time and purpose. HFY's iridescent skin had darkened to a deep blue-green, and intricate patterns of silver traced across its features like living circuitry. Its dark eyes, once filled with childlike wonder, now held depths that spoke of knowledge and experiences Marcus couldn't begin to imagine. But it was still HFY, still the frightened child he'd pulled from burning wreckage, still the curious being who had asked endless questions about human nature and the stars beyond Earth's sky. Hello, Marcus Chun, HFY said, and its voice carried harmonics that made the bridge's metal walls hum in sympathy. It has been a very long time. Marcus stepped forward, his heart racing. Hello, HFY. You've grown. Something that might have been a smile flickered across the alien's features. As have you. I see you become a leader among your people. Commander of this colony. Protector of the humans who have made their home among the stars. The expression faded. I'm no longer the child you saved, Marcus Chun. I am HFY Threnaxos, fleet singer of the Quantum Concordance, and speaker for those who remember the first arc. The titles rolled off HFY's tongue with authority that made Marcus acutely aware of how much had changed. This wasn't the curious child who had once fallen asleep reading human fairy tales. This was someone who commanded ships that could fold space and time. I have come because the debt between us must be settled, HFY continued. Once, you saved my life when duty told you to walk away. You showed me kindness when wisdom counseled caution. You gave me hope when despair would have been easier. Marcus felt a chill. The formal tone, the emphasis on debt and settlement. This didn't sound like a reunion between old friends. Now, HFY said, I offer you the same choice you once gave me. Your people stand at a crossroads, Marcus-chun. The galaxy is not as peaceful as you believe, and humanity's expansion has not gone unnoticed. There are those who would see your species scattered like mine once was, your worlds burned, your children left orphaned among the stars. The transmission paused, and Marcus could hear his own heartbeat in the sudden silence. I can offer protection. The quantum concordance is powerful, our fleet's vast. Under our guidance, humanity could take its place among the great civilizations of the galaxy. Your people would be safe, prosperous, free to explore and grow. HFY's dark eyes seemed to look directly into Marcus's soul. But there's a price. Everything has a price. What price? Marcus asked, though part of him already knew he wouldn't like the answer. Submission. Your independence. Your right to choose your own path among the stars. HFY's expression became unreadable. In 3 of your days, I will return for your answer. Consider carefully, Marcus-chun. The choice you make will determine whether humanity's children grow up free, but vulnerable, or safe but owned. The transmission ended, leaving Marcus and his crew staring at a blank screen while the impossible ship hung in space above their colony like a beautiful, terrible promise of things to come. Marcus hadn't slept in 36 hours. He stood in his private quarters, staring out at the alien ship that hung motionless above the colony like a sword of crystal and starlight. In 2 days, HFY would return for humanity's answer, and Marcus still had no idea what that answer should be. A soft chime announced a visitor. Come in. Dr. Elizabeth Harper entered, looking older than her 63 years. The expedition's former xenobiologist had retired to the colony 5 years ago, but the lines around her eyes spoke of decades spent wrestling with impossible questions about life among the stars. I heard about your visitor, she said without preamble. I've been reviewing my old notes from the expedition. Marcus gestured to the small seating area by the viewport. Find anything useful? Harper settled into a chair with a sigh. Maybe. Do you remember how quickly HFY learned? Not just our language, but our entire way of thinking. It was remarkable. By the end of the first month, it was reading technical manuals that gave our engineers headaches. That's just it, Marcus. It wasn't just learning our technology, it was learning us. Understanding human nature at a fundamental level. Harper pulled up a holographic display from her tablet, showing neural scan patterns from 15 years ago. Look at these brain activity readings from when HFY was studying human social dynamics. Marcus studied the swirling patterns of neural activity. To his untrained eye, they looked like abstract art, but Harper had always been able to read alien neurology like others read books. See these quantum resonance spikes? They correspond to moments when HFY was processing emotional concepts, friendship, loyalty, sacrifice. Its species doesn't just think with their brains, Marcus. They think with quantum fields that extend beyond their physical bodies. What are you saying? Harper leaned forward, her expression grave. I'm saying that when you showed kindness to that dying child, you didn't just save its life. You imprinted human values directly onto its quantum consciousness. HFY didn't just learn about human compassion. It became part of its fundamental neural architecture. Marcus felt a cold weight settling in his stomach. Are you telling me that everything HFY learned about humanity came from me? Not everything, but the core patterns, the fundamental understanding of what humans value and why. Yes, that came from you. Harper closed the display and met his eyes, which means the being up there in that ship isn't just making decisions based on alien logic. It's making them based on human values, filtered through 15 years of experience we can't imagine. Before Marcus could respond, his communicator buzzed with an emergency signal. Captain Chun to the bridge immediately. We have multiple contacts dropping out hyperspace. Marcus ran through the corridors of the New Horizon, Harper close behind him. The bridge was a hive of controlled chaos, with officers calling out readings and tactical displays flickering with new information. Report. Marcus barked as he took his command chair. Lieutenant Kim looked up from her sensor station, her face pale. Sir, we have 14 ships emerging from hyperspace at the edge of the system. Configuration unknown, but they're moving fast and heading this way. The alien ship? Marcus asked, still in position above the colony. No response to our hails, no change in status. Kim paused, checking her readings again. Sir, the new arrivals. Their energy signatures are completely different from HFY's ship. If I had to guess, I'd say they're here for a fight. Marcus studied the tactical display. The approaching ships were sleek and angular, with the kind of aggressive design that spoke of a species that had turned warfare into an art form. They moved in perfect formation, their approach vector designed to cut off any escape routes from a colony. Time to intercept. 47 minutes at current speed. Marcus's mind raced. 14 unknown warships approaching, just as HFY had given humanity an ultimatum. It couldn't be coincidence. But were these ships allies of HFY, or the very threat the fleet singer had warned about? Sir, Commander Rodriguez called from the tactical station. I'm reading massive energy buildup in the approaching fleet. Whatever they're planning, they're powering up for it. Suddenly, the main screen flickered to life. But instead of HFY's familiar features, Marcus found himself looking at something that made his blood run cold. The being on screen was vaguely humanoid, but its skin was the color of old bone and covered in what looked like ritual scars. Its eyes were solid black, and when it smiled, it revealed rows of sharp, metallic teeth. Humans, the creature said in a voice like grinding stone. I am War Speaker Kethvar of the Hegemony Fleet. You will prepare your colony for harvesting. Your species will serve the hegemony as your betters have decreed, or you will be eliminated for the good of the galaxy. Marcus stood slowly. This is Captain Marcus Chun of the Human Colonial Authority. You are in violation of interstellar law. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Kethvar's laugh was like the sound of breaking glass. Interstellar law? You speak of law to beings who have conquered 17 species and turned their worlds into gardens of servitude. The creature leaned forward, its black eyes reflecting no light. Your guardian is gone, human. The quantum-touched ones who once protected this sector have withdrawn their fleets. You are alone, and you will serve or die. The transmission ended, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Marcus felt the pieces clicking together in his mind. The quantum concordance, HFY's people, had been protecting human space without them even knowing it. And now, for whatever reason, that protection was being withdrawn, unless humanity accepted HFY's offer of submission. Sir, Dr. Walsh called from the science station. I'm reading some kind of quantum disturbance around the alien ship. The space around it is shifting. On the main screen, the crystalline ship began to change. Its organic curves straightened into aggressive angles, and patterns of red light began pulsing across its hull like flowing blood. Weapon ports that had been hidden beneath its beautiful exterior began to iris open, revealing energies that made the bridge's radiation detectors scream warnings. Marcus Chun. HFY's voice filled the bridge, but it was different now, deeper, harmonized with quantum frequencies that made the air itself vibrate. The hegemony comes to claim your people. They believe the concordance has abandoned you to your fate. Marcus stepped forward. Have you? That depends entirely on your answer to my offer. The alien's image appeared on screen, but Marcus could see that HFY had changed again. The silver patterns on its skin were now glowing with inner light, and its dark eyes held depths that seemed to contain entire galaxies. The hegemony harvests species that cannot defend themselves. They break entire civilizations and turn the survivors into slaves. Your current technology cannot stop them. But you could, Marcus said. Yes, one concordance vessel could destroy their entire fleet. But such protection comes with the price I have already named. HFY paused, and for a moment, Marcus thought he saw something of the curious child he'd once known. I do not wish to see your people enslaved, Marcus Chun, but neither can I allow them to face the galaxy's true dangers unprepared and unprotected. There has to be another way. Perhaps. Zephai's expression became unreadable. The hegemony respects only strength. If humanity could demonstrate that it is not the helpless species they believe you to be, they might withdraw their claims. But such a demonstration would require capabilities your people do not possess. Marcus felt a desperate plan beginning to form in his mind. What if they did possess those capabilities? Temporarily? On screen, Zephai's silver patterns pulsed brighter. Explain. You learned from us. You absorbed human values and made them part of yourself. Could the reverse work? Could you temporarily share your people's knowledge with us? The silence stretched for long seconds while Marcus held his breath. Around him, the bridge crew waited for an answer that might determine humanity's future. It would be dangerous, Zephai said finally. The quantum technologies of my people require neural modifications that few species can survive. And the knowledge itself, there are reasons why the Concordance restricts such gifts. But it's possible. For you, perhaps. Our neural patterns were linked during my time among your people. The quantum resonance between us might allow for a temporary transfer. Zephai's expression grew troubled. But, Marcus Chun, you must understand, to touch the quantum realm as we do is to see the universe as it truly is. Many minds break under such awareness. And, even if you survive, the knowledge cannot be permanent. To make it so would change you into something that is no longer human. Marcus looked around the bridge at his crew, people who had trusted him to lead them safely among the stars. In 30 minutes, the hegemony fleet would arrive and demand humanity's surrender. In less than 2 days, Zephai would return for humanity's answer to a choice between freedom and safety. But perhaps there was a third option. How long would the transfer last? Marcus asked. Hours at most. Long enough to face the hegemony, but not long enough to abuse such power. Marcus made his decision. Do it, sir. Commander Rodriguez stepped forward. You can't be serious. We have no idea what this procedure might do to you. The alternative is watching our people become slaves or refugees. Marcus turned to face his crew. Dr. Harper, you said Zephai learned human values from me. If that's true, then it won't let me suffer unnecessarily. Harper nodded slowly. The neural link between you two is unique. If anyone could survive this, it would be you. Zephai's voice filled the bridge again. Very well. Prepare yourself, Marcus Chun. I will transport you to my vessel for the procedure. Your people must hold position and show no aggression toward the hegemony until your return. And if I don't return, then humanity will face the same choice I've already given them. But know this, if you die in this attempt, I will consider the debt between us paid in full. Your people will have earned their freedom through your sacrifice. Marcus looked around the bridge one more time, memorizing the faces of people who had become like family to him. Commander Rodriguez, you have the bridge. If things go badly, follow whatever evacuation protocols you think best. Sir, that's an order, Angela. The bridge dissolved around Marcus in a cascade of quantum light, and he found himself standing in a chamber that defied every law of physics he'd ever learned. The walls seemed to extend infinitely in all directions, yet he could somehow sense that he was inside Zephai's ship. Patterns of light flowed through the air like liquid starlight, and the floor beneath his feet felt solid despite being completely transparent. Zephai stood before him, but the being was no longer maintaining a form that approximated human appearance. Its true shape was something between a jellyfish and a living constellation, with tendrils of pure energy extending from a central core that pulsed with the rhythm of a cosmic heartbeat. Are you certain about this path, Marcus Chun? Zephai's voice seemed to come from everywhere and nowhere. The knowledge I must give you will show you truths about the universe that most minds cannot bear. You will see the quantum threads that bind all existence, the probability streams that flow between what is and what might be. You will understand how my people think, how we perceive reality itself. Marcus steadied himself against the overwhelming alien environment. I'm sure. Then, prepare yourself. And remember, no matter what you see or understand, no matter how much power flows through you, you must hold fast to what makes you human. It is the only anchor that will allow you to return to yourself when this is over. Tendrils of quantum light reached out from Zephai's form and touched Marcus's forehead. The universe exploded into infinite possibility. Suddenly, Marcus could see everything. He saw the hegemony fleet approaching like a cancer through the cosmos, their ships trailing streams of conquest and suffering across a dozen star systems. He saw the terrified faces of the colonists below, people who had trusted him to keep them safe in the vastness of space. He saw the quantum shadows of 1,000 possible futures spreading out like branches on a cosmic tree. And he saw the tools to change everything. Knowledge flooded through his mind. Not just information, but understanding so deep it felt like remembering something he had always known. He knew how to manipulate quantum fields with his thoughts, how to fold space around his will, how to touch the fundamental forces that held reality together. Power followed understanding. Energy beyond imagination flowed through his human nervous system, transforming him into something that was still Marcus Chun, but also infinitely more. He was a human being who could reshape matter with a thought, who could bend the laws of physics to his will. But underneath it all, he held fast to the memories that made him who he was. The weight of responsibility for his people, the warmth of friendship with his crew, the pain of watching Zephai taken away all those years ago, and the joy of seeing that frightened child grow into something magnificent and terrible. Now, Zephai's voice whispered across the quantum realm, "Show the hegemony what humanity truly is." Marcus opened his eyes and smiled. The hegemony wanted a demonstration of strength. They were about to get exactly what they'd asked for. Marcus materialized on the bridge of the new horizon in a cascade of quantum light that made the air itself sing with impossible harmonies. His crew stepped back in alarm. He still looked human, but energy crackled beneath his skin like captured lightning, and his eyes held depths that seemed to contain the birth and death of stars. "Captain," Commander Rodriguez whispered. "I'm still me, Angela," Marcus said, and his voice carried overtones that made the bridge's metal walls resonate. "But I'm also something more. For the next few hours, I have access to knowledge and power that humanity won't be ready for another 1,000 years." He turned to the main screen, where the hegemony fleet was approaching like a swarm of metallic predators. 14 ships, each one capable of reducing the colony to radioactive ash. In normal circumstances, they would be unstoppable. But these weren't normal circumstances anymore. "Open a channel to the hegemony fleet," Marcus ordered. "Liut kim hesitated." "Sir, are you sure?" "Do it." The screen flickered to life, showing War Speaker Kethvar's scarred features. The alien's black eyes narrowed when it saw Marcus. "Human Commander, you will surrender your colony for processing, or we will take it by force. These are your only options." Marcus smiled, and the quantum energies flowing through his nervous system made the expression predatory in ways no human smile had ever been. "Actually, I'd like to propose a third option. And what might that be? Single combat. Your strongest warrior against me. If you win, humanity submits to the hegemony. If I win, you withdraw your claims and leave our space permanently." Kethvar's metallic teeth glinted as it laughed. "You jest, human. What could one soft-bodied creature do against the might of a hegemony war speaker? Only one way to find out." Something in Marcus's tone made the alien's laughter die. Kethvar studied him through the transmission, and Marcus could see the creature's tactical mind working behind those black eyes. The war speaker was sensing something different, something dangerous. "You have one of their quantum touched, one's hidden somewhere," Kethvar said finally. "You think to trick me into facing their champion instead of yours. No tricks, no champions, just me." Marcus raised his hand, and quantum fire danced between his fingers like tame starlight. "Though I should warn you, I've recently acquired some new capabilities. The bridge fell silent, except for the soft hum of the ship's systems. Marcus could feel his crew's eyes on him, their mixture of hope and terror. They were watching their captain prepare to bet humanity's freedom on a contest that could end with his death. Kethvar leaned forward, its scarred features twisting with interest. Interesting. The quantum-touched ones have shared their gifts with you. But such power burns out inferior minds quickly. How long can you maintain such abilities, human? Minutes? An hour at most. Long enough, Marcus replied. The war speaker was quiet for a long moment, calculating odds and possibilities. Marcus could almost see the thoughts running through its alien mind. A quick victory would demonstrate hegemony superiority and cow any thoughts of resistance. A loss would be problematic, but individual combat was honorable among the hegemony's warrior culture. Very well, Kethvar said finally. Single combat it is. I will face you on the surface of your colony world. But know this, human, I have killed champions of 17 species. Your new abilities will not save you from a lifetime of war and conquest. We'll see. The transmission ended, and Marcus turned to find his senior staff staring at him with expressions ranging from awe to concern. Marcus, Dr. Harper said softly, I need to know, are you still you in there? Or has the quantum transfer changed you into something else? Marcus considered the question seriously. He could feel the vast knowledge flowing through his mind like an ocean of possibility. He understood things about the universe that no human had ever known, the quantum mathematics that governed reality, the probability streams that flowed between dimensions, the delicate balance of forces that held galaxies together. But underneath it all, he was still the man who had defied orders to save a dying alien child. Still the officer who had worked his way up from junior survey duty to colonial command through dedication and hard choices. Still someone who would sacrifice everything to protect the people under his care. I'm still me, he said, but I'm also temporarily something more. Think of it as borrowing capabilities I'll need to return when this is over. Commander Rodriguez stepped forward. Sir, with respect, you can't fight this thing alone. Let me take a shuttle down with a full tactical team. No. Marcus's voice carried harmonics that made the words feel final. This has to be single combat. Honor matters to their culture. If I cheat, they'll consider the contest void and attack the colony anyway. He moved to the viewport and looked down at the planet below. Kepler, 442b stretched out beneath them, purple mountains giving way to golden plains where humanity had built its newest home among the stars. 15,000 people lived down there, scientists and farmers and engineers who had traveled impossible distances to build something better. They were his responsibility. They had always been his responsibility. I'll take a shuttle down to the designated coordinates, Marcus said. Monitor the situation from here. If something goes wrong, if I fall or fail, follow evacuation protocol Omega. Get our people to safety however you can. And if you win? Lieutenant Kim asked. Marcus smiled, and for a moment he looked like the eager young survey officer who had once risked everything for a frightened alien child. Then, humanity takes its place among the stars as a free species. No masters, no protectors, no one telling us how to live or where we can go. The shuttle flight to the planet's surface gave Marcus time to center himself and prepare for what was coming. The quantum knowledge flowing through his mind showed him exactly how dangerous Kethvar would be. The war speaker was a combat-modified hegemony warrior with centuries of experience and augmentations that made it stronger, faster, and deadlier than anything humanity had ever faced. But Marcus had advantages of his own now. He could see the probability streams flowing around every possible action, read the quantum fluctuations that preceded every movement. He could manipulate matter at the molecular level and bend space-time around his will. The question was whether his human mind could handle such power long enough to win the fight that would determine his species' fate. The shuttle touched down in a wide valley, surrounded by the purple mountains that had become the colony's unofficial symbol. Marcus stepped out on an alien soil, and felt the planet's quantum field responding to his presence. Energy flowed up from the ground through his feet, connecting him to the world where humanity had chosen to make its stand. A few minutes later, a hegemony shuttle landed across the valley. Its design was all sharp angles and aggressive curves built for intimidation as much as function. When the boarding ramp lowered, HFY emerged like a nightmare given flesh. The war speaker stood nearly 8 feet tall, its bone-white skin covered in ritual scars that told the story of 100 battles. Cybernetic augmentations gleamed at its joints, and the weapons built into its arms could probably level a city block. Its black eyes fixed on Marcus with the focus of a predator that had never known defeat. "So, little human," HFY called across the valley, its voice carrying easily in the thin air. "Are you ready to die for your people's foolish pride?" Marcus walked forward to meet the alien warrior halfway. With each step, he felt the quantum energies flowing through his body, growing stronger, responding to his will and determination. By the time he stopped 20 feet from HFY, power was radiating from him in visible waves that made the air shimmer. "I'm ready to live for their freedom," Marcus replied. HFY's metallic teeth gleamed. "Bravely spoken. I will make your death quick in honor of your courage." The war speaker moved faster than human reflexes could follow, crossing the distance between them in a blur of enhanced muscle and cybernetic augmentation. Its arm-mounted weapons fired streams of plasma that could melt through starship armor. But Marcus was no longer limited to human reflexes. He sidestepped through a fold in space-time, appearing behind HFY just as the alien's weapons scorched the ground where he had been standing. Quantum fire erupted from Marcus's hands, striking the war speaker in the back and sending it sprawling. HFY rolled with the impact and came up fighting, its multiple arms moving in patterns too fast for normal perception. But Marcus could see the probability streams flowing around each attack, the quantum echoes that preceded every movement. He danced between the alien strikes like water flowing around stones, his borrowed abilities letting him exist in the spaces between heartbeats. "Impossible," HFY snarled as its weapons found nothing but empty air. "No inferior species moves like that." "Maybe your definition of inferior needs updating," Marcus replied. He reached out with his enhanced perception and touched the quantum field surrounding HFY's cybernetic augmentations. With a thought, he scrambled their operating frequencies. The war speaker stumbled as its enhanced reflexes betrayed it, systems designed to make it unstoppable suddenly, working against each other. But HFY had survived centuries of combat by adapting to the unexpected. It disabled its cybernetics with a thought and shifted to purely biological combat, using its species' natural advantages instead of artificial enhancements. The alien's true speed was terrifying. It moved like liquid death, striking with claws that could rend metal and teeth that could crush bone. Marcus found himself pushed to the limits of his borrowed abilities, quantum fire and spatial manipulation barely keeping him ahead of the war speaker's relentless assault. They fought across the valley floor, their battle reshaping the landscape around them. Where Marcus's quantum fire struck the ground, new elements crystallized into existence. Where HFY's claws raked the earth, deep furrows appeared that glowed with residual energy. Above them, both fleets watched the contest that would determine humanity's fate. Marcus could feel the quantum knowledge beginning to fade from his mind like water running through his fingers. The human nervous system wasn't designed to channel such power indefinitely. He had minutes at most before he would revert to being just another colonial captain facing an unstoppable alien warrior. He needed to end this quickly. Reaching deep into the quantum realm, Marcus touched the fundamental forces that held matter together. For a brief, terrifying moment, he considered simply unmaking HFY at the molecular level. The power was his. The knowledge was there. But that wasn't who he was. That wasn't what humanity should become, even if they could. Instead, he did something far more dangerous. He opened his mind completely to the quantum field, letting it flow through him without restraint or protection. Power beyond imagination flooded through his human consciousness, burning away the limitations that kept him safe. Marcus felt his sense of self beginning to dissolve under the quantum storm. He was becoming something vast and terrible, a being of pure energy and possibility. But he held fast to the memories that made him human, the weight of responsibility, the warmth of friendship, the pain of loss, and the hope for something better. And in that moment of perfect balance between human and quantum, between what was and what could be, Marcus reached out and touched Kethvar's mind. The war speaker's black eyes went wide as Marcus showed it the truth that the quantum realm had revealed to him. He showed Kethvar the beauty of cooperation over conquest, the strength that came from protecting others instead of dominating them. He shared the memories of a young human officer who had risked everything to save a dying alien child, and the joy of watching that child grow into something magnificent. He showed the warrior what humanity could become if it was allowed to grow freely among the stars. Kethvar stumbled backward, its scarred features twisting with emotions its species barely had words for. What have you done to me? I've shown you who we really are, Marcus said, the quantum fire fading from his hands as his borrowed power finally began to ebb. We're not inferior, war speaker. We're just different. And maybe, given time, we could teach the galaxy something new. The alien warrior stared at him for a long moment, its black eyes reflecting thoughts that would have been impossible minutes before. Then, slowly, deliberately, Kethvar knelt on the valley floor. I yield, the war speaker said, its voice filled with wonder. The combat is yours, human. Your people have earned their freedom. Marcus felt his knees buckle as the last of HFY's gift faded from his mind. He was just human again, tired, overwhelmed, but somehow still alive. Above them, he could see shuttles launching from the hegemony fleet, carrying the defeated warriors away from human space. A few minutes later, HFY's crystalline ship descended to the valley floor. The being that emerged was once again the child Marcus remembered, though transformed by knowledge and experience into something magnificent. You did well, HFY said, its voice carrying harmonics of pride and affection. Better than I had hoped. Did I pass your test? Marcus asked weakly. What test? The ultimatum. The choice between freedom and safety. Was all of this some elaborate way to see what humanity would choose? HFY's expression became almost human in its complexity, part guilt, part affection, part something that might have been love. There was no test, Marcus-chun. The hegemony threat was real. My offer of protection was genuine. Then, why? Because I learned more from you than you ever knew, HFY interrupted. You taught me that the most important choice is not between freedom and safety, but between growing and remaining the same. You could have accepted my protection and made humanity safe but dependent. Instead, you chose to risk everything for the chance to grow into something greater. The alien being moved closer, and Marcus could see echoes of the curious child he had once known. My people will not abandon humanity to the galaxy's dangers, but neither will we constrain your growth with unwanted protection. We will be here when you need us, but the path you walk among the stars will be your own to choose. Marcus looked up at the sky where human and alien ships waited among the stars. In the distance, he could see shuttles from the colony approaching, bringing the people who had trusted him to lead them safely into the future. And what about us, he asked. The debt between us. HFY smiled, an expression that was purely human in its warmth. There is no debt, Marcus-chun. There is only friendship, freely given and gladly accepted, as it always has been. Years later, when historians wrote about the day humanity earned its place among the free species of the galaxy, they would call it the Kepler Valley Incident. They would analyze the tactical decisions, the diplomatic implications, and the technological revelations that changed everything. But Marcus would always remember it differently. He would remember it as the day a frightened alien child he had once saved returned that kindness in the most profound way possible, by teaching humanity that true strength came not from the power to dominate others, but from the courage to choose growth over safety, freedom over security, and hope over fear. And in the quantum realm that bound all thinking beings together, the echo of that choice would ripple across the galaxy for generations to come, inspiring other species to find their own paths among the stars. The debt between them was finally settled. But the friendship that had begun with a simple act of kindness would endure as long as human and quantum concordant ships sailed the cosmic sea together, partners in the endless journey toward whatever wonders the universe held in store.